Welcome back, and it's official. XRP now has a actually, it's not an XRP credit card. It's a Gemini credit card with an XRP logo. But what in the Ripple and Gemini is going on here? In today's video, we're going to be exploring a new secret partnership that is now being revealed between Gemini and Ripple, and how, in my view, the XRP ecosystem, the XRP army, the people who are holding XRP are not only being fleeced, but they're being fooled by the company that they love so much and the crypto that they think is going to go higher. Now, let me preface this video by saying I would never bet against the XRP army and Ripple, because a lot of the things that Ripple said they were going to do years ago in terms of integrating into financial systems and stuff like that, they have done. And we're going to be exploring some of those massive investments that they've made and the evolution of XRP and Ripple. But one of the concerns that I always have is, even though Ripple is succeeding and achieving a lot of great things and they're doing a good job, how does this impact XRP? Because we know that that Ripple still has, when I'm recording this video, 35 billion plus coins, and they get released at about 1 billion coins per month that Ripple can sell on the open market. And the XRP army is very, very bullish about these XRP ETFs and XRP like funds or digital asset treasury companies. But the XRP is not going to be coming from open market transactions. It's going to be coming from Ripple themselves selling their coins on the open market, which, by the way, Ripple has said they will continue to do. They're not going to stop. And so is this actually benefiting XRP, or is it benefiting Ripple, or is it benefiting both? Well, in today's video, we're going to be exploring all of that to understand, is XRP still a good investment in 2025? This is the Cryptoviser podcast. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. That way you never miss a new video. We upload every single day of the year. And do me a favor, give the video a free thumbs up, because crypto is not free, but thumbs up are always free. And by the way, if you do want to sign up on Gemini, use my link down below in the description of this video to sign up. You get free crypto with your first purchase of or trade on all the details will be when you click that link to sign up for Gemini. And then once you sign up for Gemini, you can also sign up for their credit card and get the XRP edition if you want. But let's understand a little bit more about this, because Ripple announced the Gemini credit card XRP edition. Gemini has now launched Real USD, which is Ripple's stable coin. For spot trading, they simplified trading, no extra conversion fees, simple and fast access to crypto and stable value, and a special edition designed for the XRP community. But this is not actually an XRP credit card, guys. And actually, it has nothing to do with XRP. The only thing that and way that XRP is integrated here is with your crypto back, because the Gemini credit card is the only credit card right now where you get crypto back straight to your account. Depending, you don't get points or you don't get cash back, you get crypto back, and you can choose which crypto you want. And so effectively, this is the same Gemini credit card, just with the XRP branding, and you could still get XRP in crypto back. So it's not a bad deal, but would you rather get XRP back or Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever other crypto back? I don't know that XRP is for everyone. Maybe it's not needed to be for everyone. But there's a lot more here, because the credit card, this is just branding, right? This is just appeasement to the XRP community, or maybe to Ripple. But there's a lot more here, because now we're hearing that Ripple and Gemini formed a secret deal during and part of this XRP card launch. And we're going to be exploring all of that. And we're going to hear from an expert who breaks down this new deal, this secret partnership between Ripple and Gemini. Now, for me, it's very interesting, because before the 10th dismissal from the XRP lawsuit, right, between Ripple and Brad and the SEC, Gemini never had XRP on the exchange. Once they won the lawsuit, or it got dismissed, or whatever the situation was, Gemini basically was the first exchange in the US to relist XRP. And so that was interesting. But now there's a deal. Now, we're going to start right here, because the deal between Ripple and Gemini, it seems like there's more. Remember, just a few weeks ago, Gemini filed for an IPO, right? An initial public offering to become a publicly traded company. But yet, according to this user, Star Platinum on X, they said that Gemini reported a $158.5 million loss in 2024, even during a bull run. How's that possible? Revenue was $142 million, 70% from trading fees and 30% from custody, staking, and credit cards. But operating costs hit $166 million, with salaries alone at $130 million, which is 82% of expenses. The median pay for engineers was $236,000. Sales staff, $262,000. The exchange also paid $42 million in fines, $37 million to the New York Department of Financial Services, and $5 million to the CFTC. Now, what's interesting about this is, by the way, if you guys are not aware, because they have a bit license, they are basically paying for the fees for whoever's checking, like the regulators have to hire lawyers to check their books and all that. Gemini actually pays for that. And all of this other fines, I think, have to do from the last bear market. But it is very interesting. I will say that the general sentiment seems to be that Gemini customer service is significantly better than Coinbase. And maybe that has to do with what they're paying, right? We just heard Coinbase had a serious user information breach in 2025 because they were hiring, overseas employees, probably for a fraction of what they would have to pay somebody in the US. But there's less oversight when you have these kind of international teams and they're third parties, they're working for another company, and it's like, what? And so there's definitely something to say about how Gemini is doing things and maybe the quality of their employees that they're paying higher. And so I'm not necessarily mad at that, but it is pretty interesting that Gemini does not make that much money, even in a bull run. And remember what I said in the last cycle. I have a soft spot for Gemini because out of all of the companies that lost money for their users, I told my viewers when FTX collapsed and then Gemini Earn kind of went under because they were loaning to Genesis Trading. I told my viewers, I believe that the Winklevoss twins and Gemini will make it right by their customers, 100%, even if they have to take it out of their own pocket. And guess what? They did. And they actually got the regulators in New York to sue Grayscale, which Grayscale's parent company of Genesis Trading that lost all the money, and got them to pay the majority of it. I think Gemini did have to pay some back to their customers, but everything was back exactly what you lost in the crypto that you lost it in, right? So it was not like, here's the cash that we owe you from the time you lost your money. Is no, everything was in kind. And we didn't really see any other company doing that. Gemini did the right by their customers, and I think that everybody in crypto should really be supporting them for doing that, because not every company did that. BlockFi, Voyager, 3 Arrows Capital, Celsius, all these companies, they didn't get their customers their money back in the way that Gemini did. But anyway, I'm going on a huge tangent, but I'm just saying that they're spending a lot, but I think that it shows in the product that they have. But it's also kind of odd that they don't make that much, right? And I think a lot of people just use Binance or use Hyperliquid or use Coinbase. And so that's something that Gemini has to work on, getting people to use their exchange over Coinbase. But anyway, back to Gemini and Ripple. So to cut cost, Gemini fired 10% of the staff in August, froze hiring and slashed marketing spend by 62%, and moved the headquarters to Florida from New York. Now, I think moving the headquarters to Florida is probably an instant win for them because, just on taxes and expenses alone, it's probably less. And then in July of 2025, they took a $75 million credit line from Ripple to cover liquidity. So, well, this is when the secret partnership between Ripple and Gemini begins. And again, I'm not putting down Ripple because I think Ripple, especially if they IPO at some point, is going to be a very investable company. because they're doing things like this. And how are they getting the money to do things like this? Like, think about it. If Ripple is their main corridors for payments are in like, these third world countries where nobody even has a bank, they're not charging that much for expenses. I mean, very, very low. I mean, like for fees. So they're making fractions of what they like Western Union makes. So where is Ripple really getting the money to acquire all these companies and invest in all of these different areas that they've been investing in? It's through their XRP sales. And so effectively, Ripple is covering Gemini. And so Ripple is going to benefit in some way from that, from Gemini, whether it's financially, whether it's through a partnership or a deal. And the XRP army believe that it's going to benefit XRP, but it may not be, right? Especially if they're selling the coins on the market to then go and buy these access or have the liquidity to be able to do this. Coinbase and other exchanges turned profits, but Gemini burned cash in a bull market. Now it's pushing for a NASDAQ IPO to raise capital. Failure to make money when conditions were favorable shows deep structural problems, which is very interesting. I do think that Gemini has a marketing problem, right? They don't market very well, and they don't market to the masses the way that you see other, like Coinbase doesn't even really need to market because people just do it for them. Like everybody just thinks Coinbase when they think crypto, right? Gemini needs to get in there. And I don't know how Gemini does it. I think that they definitely wanted more institutional usage, but maybe they're just going to tap into XRP and Ripple now. And so the Gemini credit card for XRP launched. Now this user with about 85,000 followers and is tracking XRP and Ripple developments. He unpacked the Ripple and Gemini news. What is exactly going on? And this whole may be greater than the sum of the parts. It gets weird a little bit later down in the post. And I would agree. I definitely think that if you just take like the XRP credit card and say, oh, well, this is great for Gemini because now the XRP army is going to be using the Gemini credit card. But it seems like there's more because now they're getting a $75 million credit facility from Ripple. And so let's unpack it and understand it. And don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up and also hit that subscribe button. You can also become a channel member. Sometimes we do deep dives into individual topics and cryptos and projects like today. And sometimes we talk about the macro financial conditions and where the entire crypto and financial markets are going. So he says Gemini's SEC filings show a revolving credit facility from Ripple, a line of credit basically up to $75 million, expandable to $150 million. The minimum draw is $5 million. Interest is 6.5% to 8.5%, depending on the collateral, which includes crypto. Pretty standard before an IPO, but there's more. The unusual part is that once Gemini borrows past $75 million, additional draws can be in RLUSD, their stablecoin. It doesn't require or force RLUSD usage. It just makes it available. It could embed RLUSD into a regulated exchange's financing, but they don't have to. He says, so Ripple immediately gains distribution and legitimacy by inserting RLUSD into an SEC filing. Gemini gets flexibility later with no obligation. Great if Tether faces MiCA limits. Those are other market regulations in other countries, or USD banking tightens, or it wants a regulatory-ready stablecoin story for investors. And that would be it, right? Because now RLUSD is in a publicly traded company if Gemini or when Gemini goes public. So this is very interesting. And again, the timing that they're doing this all before they actually IPO. And so they're pushing these things through. Very interesting. By coincidence, Gemini received that MiCA license just the day before in Malta, and Ripple, through its new Luxembourg facility, applied for a MiCA EMI license in July. So both are preparing for compliance in the European Union. It's almost like they know something is going on. And then the New York City billboard appeared featuring an XRP branded MasterCard saying, prepare your bags for the announcement. The card is backed by $75 million from Ripple and Gemini. So where have we heard $75 million before? That's right. The initial load amount before RLUSD became an option. Are they already at the threshold? Probably not. The SEC filing says they haven't drawn on the loan since August 15th. Still, is there more coincidence? He said, if so, and this is speculative, Ripple could be effectively underwriting Gemini's IPO liquidity and a new payment product opening the doors for RLUSD to be used in the background, MiCA compliantly, right? The license in Europe. Again, he's just grasping at straws, speculating how what we see might fit together. Too long didn't read is what a coincidence. Gemini borrowed $75 million from Ripple with the option for $150 million in RLUSD right when both are pitching in $75 million to launch XRP branded credit cards and secure MiCA compliance. Very interesting. And so the way that I look at it is like, we have not really heard that much about Gemini's stablecoin. And what we're seeing is a lot of these companies that create stablecoins, they may not need them. And they may not need the overhead, the compliance issues, and all of that. If Gemini really wants to succeed, right, they need to cut expenses where they can save money and get back to making money, right? And I didn't go through all their filings to see like where they're spending money and making money and all of that. But again, if they are able to save money by not dealing with the compliance issues of a stable coin, and they let Ripple do all of that, and they maybe sunset their Gemini USD coin. This could be very interesting. It could be very interesting because remember, Circle partnered with Coinbase. And so Circle wins because all the users on Coinbase will use USDC. And Coinbase wins because they get a portion of the interest on those coins. And I would imagine we're probably going to see similar things with this XRP and Ripple conversation as time goes on. And so it's going to benefit both companies. But at the end of the day, it also appears like Ripple is buying companies or buying partnerships into companies by utilizing their cash availability. Because one of the clear differences between all of these companies that are involved in crypto in some way or another, like MicroStrategy and all this stuff, Coinbase, Gemini, and Ripple, is Ripple effectively has a money printer. And this is something that is fascinating to follow. Because for me, the money printer should be bearish for the price of XRP. But it hasn't been. It hasn't been. Ripple continues to sell XRP and not force XRP usage on the RippleNet or through any of their users. We don't actually know how much of Ripple's business utilizes ODL or on-demand liquidity, which is the XRP component, because they don't publish that information. There's no ledger, there's no scanner, there's no chart that shows us how much institutional usage is actually being used with XRP. And so for me, if they're not showing us the numbers probably very low or almost zero compared to the overall volume of XRP. And so is this bullish for XRP or is this bullish for Ripple or both or neither? For me, I just think that there's a cohort of holders that are that they do believe in XRP and Ripple. And Ripple, like I said, everything Ripple said that they were going to achieve so far, they really have achieved. They've done a very good job at it. But that doesn't take away the fact that they're selling their own coin on the market to fund all of these other things. Now, granted, I understand the XRP army says, but Cryptoviser, they're buying all these companies. They're acquiring all this money by selling the XRP on the open market so that they can buy companies, get stake in all of these different things all around the world so that they control everything or have a big piece of that control, like they're the new global bank, which I get. But how does that impact XRP, especially when Ripple has never fully committed to forcing use of XRP, even now that regulatorily compliant, it's not a security. We're not seeing any change in the language that the entire RippleNet and Ripple network, all of Ripple's customers are going to use XRP. We don't even know how many are actually using XRP. It's all speculation. And so Ripple, I don't necessarily know they're going to go public, because if they do, a lot of this information will be in their filings, and I don't know it's going to look that good. Again, look at Gemini, right? Their numbers look not that great in a bull market. But there's more. There's more. And I mean, the whole rabbit hole of all of Ripple's investments is very hard to track, because we don't even know what all these companies are. But then there's this company called Tranglo, which says they're a cross-border payment specialist. Tranglo is a leading cross-border payment hub, providing seamless and secure international transactions. Their vision is unlimited possibilities through inclusive and accessible payments. It's pretty broad. They have over 2,500 payout partners, 57 million transactions, and 24 billion transactional value, which is not really that much. But effectively in 2021, by the way, Tranglo was acquired by Currency Group. Currency Group is a publicly traded company. Let's see, Currency Group stock. Let's look at their stock. So Currency Group's stock market cap is $136 million, $181.80, right? And you could see in 2024, big drop off here in August. I don't know what that was from, $11 to $1, 99% drop. Holy geez. Yeah, that's a 90% drop last year. I don't know what that's from. This is a Singapore-based company. But again, I don't know. Let's see if they're making actually any money. No, they're not making any money. Annually, last year they lost 40 million. The year before that, they lost 15 million. The year before that, they lost 16 million. So not a profitable company, right? But it says here, in 2021, Ripple, a leading provider of enterprise blockchain solutions, acquired a 40% stake in Tranglo, further enhancing the ability to facilitate blockchain-powered cross-border transactions. 40% stake. So that's interesting, definitely. And so what is Tranglo, right? And what are they doing? I mean, it's not making money. That's very apparent, right? They process a lot of money and a lot of payments, but they're not really making money. I mean, you can look at the first quarter results. I think I pulled them up here. Yeah. So this was from August 4, 2025. Currency Group announced their financial for the second quarter and 6 months that ended June 30th of 2025. Tranglo, total processing value through Tranglo was $1.46 billion for the second quarter of 2025, increasing about 7%. The total number of transactions increased to 3.1 million for the second quarter of 2025 from 2.9 million in the same period last year. Okay, so let's just do the math on that. 3.1 million transactions for 90 days. So let's divide that by 90 days. That means every day they're processing about 34,000 transactions divided by 24 hours in a day. Every hour they're processing 1,435 transactions divided by 60 minutes in an hour. So every minute they're processing 23 transactions. And every second they're processing 0.39 transactions. So less than 1 transactions per second is what they are processing in the second quarter. Now, again, what are we comparing it to if it's a cross-border payment in a third world country? I don't know. I'm just giving you guys the data here, right? So the revenues, excluding Asia and that, I don't know what that is. It was $8.7 million for the second quarter, representing a year-over-year decrease of 10.3%, primarily due to a 16% decline in global airtime revenue and 40% decline in Indonesian airtime revenue. I don't know what airtime revenue is, but okay. So, okay, it says right here, Currency's global airtime transfers revenue were $2 million for the second quarter, representing a year-over-year decrease. The growing availability of free Wi-Fi in Southeast Asian countries, especially Malaysia and Indonesia, has led to declining demand for Malaysia-Indonesian airtime transfers, resulting in a decline in global airtime business in the second quarter. That's interesting. They're saying basically they don't have to process as many payments because Wi-Fi is free. That's quite the connection there, to be honest. But yeah, the reason I pulled up their results is just to show they're not really making that much money. but they own, like Ripple owns 40% of this company, right? So when Ripple says we're doing, this many cross-border transactions, they're probably including Tranglo's numbers and however other many companies they own that also do kind of these cross-border transactions in regional areas. But again, no connection to XRP, no explanation of how XRP has any connection to Ripple. And again, Brad Garlinghouse has over and over and over said there's a difference between Ripple and XRP. They're not the same. It's not the same company. Investing in XRP is not investing in Ripple. And so where does Ripple, is this just a grift? Or is Ripple becoming a powerhouse on the back end by being able to acquire this much cash from all the XRP that they can sell? And then on the back end, like integrating themselves into companies around the world, some that we know about, some that we probably don't. Because again, private companies don't have to announce their partnerships. And so there could be these private companies all around the world that are partnered with Ripple and they're doing, small volumes. But if you add all of them up, they're doing big volumes. And so effectively, then Ripple is becoming the SWIFT or the payment processor for a global payment network that's decentralized around the world. I've never really thought about it this way. In the US, they're partnered with Gemini. Overseas, they're partnered with Tranglo. Other areas, they're probably partnered with other companies. And all they got to do is provide debt issuance or cash and or an investment in the company, and they are there. And this is very, very interesting. And I don't even think a lot of the XRP army understand a lot of this or even know a lot of this, which means that you guys are way ahead. But again, is this investable as XRP? Or is the XRP army funding this whole operation? Well, I don't know. I was just shocked to see, I thought this was going to be an XRP credit card utilizing XRP for payments, but it's not. And so how does this impact XRP holders? Well, XRP holders keep stacking. But then the question is Gemini getting the XRP from Ripple at maybe a discount? Maybe Ripple said, listen, we want an XRP card. Give XRP cash back, and we will provide you with the XRP. We'll provide Gemini the XRP for this cash back at, let's say 90 cents each XRP, 90 cents to the dollar, meaning Gemini is getting a 10% discount for getting that XRP, guarantee buying the XRP, and XRP is offloading their XRP that's in escrow in small amounts over the course of time. It's very, very interesting to see how this is all playing out because Ripple and XRP, the dynamic between the two and the strength of not only the company, but the investor base, right? The XRP army. It's unlike any other crypto in existence, for real. There's no other crypto like this. There's no other crypto company like Ripple. And so trying to navigate it, whether it's investable or not, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult because, again, Ripple, they achieve everything they set out to achieve, right? When they say they're going to win the lawsuit against the SEC, that's what they did. When they say they're going to be cross-border payments around the world, that's what they do. When they say they're going to sell the XRP from the escrow on the open market, they're doing it. They are doing it. So don't sleep on Ripple. But the connection to XRP, I'm still not sold on, right? If Ripple were to IPO tomorrow, and you said, Cryptoviser, do I buy the IPO or do I buy the XRP? I would buy the IPO. That's where I am today. To get me to invest in the XRP, I would have to see a very clear vision of how XRP is going to be implemented into Ripple's entire business line, because they could already be doing it. They're not. And they've said that they were going to at some point, or at least that's the speculation. So let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up. And yeah, let me know in the comments where you think this is all going. And do you think this is bullish or bearish for the XRP coin? And let me know if you are getting the XRP edition of the Gemini credit card. I'll see you guys on the next video. Invest responsibly, do your own research, and crypto on.